Welcome to this month's Catholic Messenger Conversations podcast. I'm Lindsay Steele, diocesan reporter for the Catholic Messenger. Wait, where's Barb, you ask? Well, she's getting ready for her retirement party at the moment. Yes, after 23 years as editor of the Catholic Messenger and 21 years at the Quad City Times before that, Barb Arland Fye is going to take some well-deserved rest and relaxation. But if I know anything about Barb from working with her for the past 11 years, it's that she won't sit still for long. Between long walks and bike rides, I know she'll find new and exciting ways to share her voice and advocate for the issues that matter most to her. Maybe we'll even have her back in the studio talking about all her retirement adventures. I'm looking forward to sharing more about what's next later in this podcast. But right now, I am sitting across the table from someone you may or may not be familiar with, Father Jason Crossen. Bishop Dennis Walsh recently appointed Father Jason Vicar General for the Diocese of Davenport and rector of Sacred Heart Cathedral in Davenport. Father Jason, welcome to the podcast.
It's my pleasure to be here with you today.
And we are sitting in the KALA studios at St. Ambrose University in Davenport right now, and I understand you're no stranger to this campus. Is that right?
That is right, not at all. My dad actually went here, and his siblings went here back in the day, and I came here in 1993 to 1996, and I did some theology study in the minor seminary here when there was a minor seminary.
And what degree did you earn, and what year did you graduate?
So I graduated in 96, and I wasn't certain exactly what to do. I kind of went boring since I was studying to be a priest at the time anyway, so I went with theology. But I also got a double major in philosophy because the seminary required a lot of philosophy credits. And on top of that, I did get a little bit adventurous, and I did a minor in music, which was a lot of fun. But
vocalist or instrumental?
Mostly vocalist. I did a little bit with keyboard and some percussion, but mostly vocal.
Very exciting. And what did you most enjoy about being a bee?
Well, there were a lot of great things about St. Ambrose. I loved that it was a contained campus. It was small. It was kind of a hometown feel, which is good for me and suited me because I came from a very small town. I originally was born in Davenport, but my family really raised me out in a tiny little town of Stockton, which is about 3 blocks long and 4 blocks wide. So I was used to something small. So the idea of going to the university up in Iowa City was kind of a little bit frightening because everything's everywhere. But what I really liked about St. Ambrose was the community feel, kind of that Catholic social outreach and justice, and all the good things Ambrose was doing at the time. And it was a good way to meet friends and be with a good community.
And are there any friends that you still keep up with today from your time there?
A few. Most of them are priests, like Father Thom, or I should say Bishop-elect Thom Hennen, Father Paul Apple, Joseph Fung, Father Bill Niemiller, but there's a couple others. Andy Hovey was at my parish at Lourdes, and I get to see him from time to time. So every now and then there's a few Ambrosians I run into.
And after graduation, you earned a master's degree in spirituality from the University of St. Thomas Aquinas in Rome and were ordained a priest at Sacred Heart Cathedral in 2000. And it sounds like during your time at St. Ambrose, you were being called, you felt like you were being called to priesthood. So can you tell me a little bit about your discernment story?
Sure, yeah. It was kind of back and forth before I started Ambrose. I had always kind of thought about it. My parents said, well, they thought I would have an Irish vocation, meaning I'd be a firefighter, a police officer, or a priest. I also kind of wanted to be an airplane pilot, but because of my vision, as well as my mathematics and engineering skills weren't all that great, I kind of actually slid into wanting to do police work, and I actually joined the National Guard in my last year in high school. I did a split-out program, but that kind of clarified for me that maybe police work and military work wasn't what I was entirely cut out to do. I did enjoy it, but I also kind of had a feeling that this isn't quite for me. So kind of my funny story is I came back from Mass on a military base, and the chaplain told me, it's like, well, you know, God's army needs a few good men too. You should think about being a priest. And it sort of really struck me. And I went home that night back to the barracks. I called my parents, and I was telling my mom, well, maybe I'm called to do some social work or something like that. And my mom didn't miss a beat. She says, you're thinking about being a priest, aren't you? And I was like, maybe, I don't know. So I struggled with it on and off, but eventually made the call and was interviewed by the diocese, and it was decided the best place to begin would be St. Ambrose.
Very good. And I think you just celebrated your 25th Jubilee as a priest this year. So
Hard to believe, yes.
Congratulations, and thank you for your service to our diocese. And you're saying a fellow B, Father Thom Hennen, or as we should say, Bishop-elect Thom Hennen, graduated a few years after you, and Pope Leo recently appointed him as Bishop of Baker, Oregon. And he previously served in the positions that you now hold, Cathedral Rector and Diocesan Vicar General. Did you know him very well when you were here?
So really good question. It's one of those kind of interesting things where he followed me at first. So how I got to know Bishop-elect Thom was through a mutual friend, Father Paul Apple, who also went to high school with Father Thom. Was
in Ottumwa, I
ahead of
believe.
him. In Ottumwa, right. And so I was with Father Paul for my last senior year here at Ambrose, and I got to meet Thom a few times. But as I was leaving to go to Rome for major seminary to study at the Angelicum at the North American College, Father Thom was then coming in to start his freshman year at St. Ambrose. So he was coming in, I was going out, and then the same thing happened because I was leaving Rome to come back to be ordained a priest, and then he was coming to Rome. So I remember leaving a couple boxes for him in Rome of Iowa stuff that was kind of passed on through the Iowa students at the North American. So what's kind of funny is that now instead of him following me, I'm following him. And so it's kind of been kind of that reality of that parable, the last will be first and the first will be last, really kind of coming to fruition here.
And are you two still friends today? I've heard you were part of a board game group.
Yes, we've been very close friends for the last, I'd say, at least 20 years. And we often would spend our days off together with a group of priests and other friends playing board games and strategy games and competing with one another and just kind of taking a little time to kind of just be normal everyday people playing games and being able to even talk about kind of this stuff that was on our mind. And it was kind of a good way for us to both support and strengthen each other in friendship as well as all the things that come with interacting with the people of God as a priest. So it was a really good way for us to kindle a friendship over the many years.
That sounds wonderful. And did you have any favorite games?
Favorite games. So a couple of them are kind of on nature, like there's one called Wingspan where you have to build up birds and lay eggs and you're competing on who can do the best job at that. There's another one that is about growing wine and it takes place in Italy, so that was a neat connection for us who both studied in Italy. There's also some kind of strategic like war games and trying to compete with each other, although I think mostly we enjoyed a lot of the cooperative games where we were kind of working together as a team to sort of beat the game, or, if you will, make the best product, like the best wine, or hatch the best birds, those kinds of things.
Out of everybody in the group, who would you say won the most?
Oh, that's a good question. It kind of depended on, if you will, the time. So it usually was like for like 3 or 4 weeks, one of us would seem to always win the game. And that would create a little bit of frustration. And then the tides would turn and someone else would be winning the game constantly. So we always figured it was a really good day if everybody got to win at least once. But that didn't always happen. So that's some of that exercising of the virtue of humility in there.
Yes. Yeah, I've got a couple kids at home, and they've beat me a few times in Hungry Hungry Hippos. So I think it takes a little bit more luck than brain power in that one, though.
Sure.
And I'm sure it goes without saying, but Father Hennen will be dearly missed around here. Did you have any advice or perhaps words of comfort for him before he left for Oregon last month?
Well, we're both going through transition. Obviously, his is much bigger in the sense that he's leaving home and he's embracing a whole new life and a whole new people way far away, way out west. And we both talked about it. I think we both kind of mutually encouraged each other just to simply listen. I've been telling the people at the cathedral as well as at the diocese, right now I'm just a sponge. I'm just trying to absorb things, learn things, and if you will, soak all that in so I can be, if you will, good at the leadership that's yet to come. And I think he's doing really the same. And I think this is a good change for him, too, in a sense. There will be lots of driving for him as he maneuvers across Oregon. And those can be times of grace and times of thought processing and prayer, which is good. So that's kind of where our conversations were.
Yeah. And I'm sure that all of this is a big change for you, but as I reflect on your priesthood so far, I see a pastor who's no stranger to it. One of my first assignments as a reporter here in 2014, I think it was covering the closing of St. Mary Church in Muscatine. The merger between St. Mary and St. Matthias parishes occurred before you got there, but you and Father Jake Greiner, who was the parochial vicar there at the time, guided and comforted the parishes through the loss of that church, and you reminded them that their strong sense of community could and would outlast any building. And then at your past assignment at Our Lady of Lourdes Parish in Bettendorf, you were there during discussions about a new school and were present for the groundbreaking of St. Joan of Arc Catholic School, which opened this year. So how do you feel these experiences shaped you into the priest you are today?
Well, I think that's a really good question. One question or thought that came to me was when I was going through my final evaluation as a seminarian before I was ordained a priest. One of the priest evaluators said across the table, well, you know what, Jason, you're going to be a bricklayer. And I looked at him like, well, I don't know anything about masonry. What are you talking about? He's like, well, you're going to help build the church up because you're going to be one who comes in and helps people really build upon their understanding and upon what the church is. I just see that in you. And I thought, well, okay, we'll see how that goes. But he was really quite ahead of his time in a sense, because that really did resonate with me even in my early years as a priest. No priest wants to ever tear a building down like St. Mary's or go through those types of things, but the reality is the church is not simply physical bricks and mortar. It's really made of living stones, and it's made of the people of God. Yet we are human beings, and we are often attached to physical things. After all, we are physical too, and it's important for us to be mindful of that. And so, with St. Mary's, with Our Lady of Lourdes, we're going through, if you will, the Paschal mystery, which is the death and the resurrection of Jesus. And all of us have to face, actual death in our lives. But throughout our spiritual lives, we also are going through small deaths and small resurrections. In other words, we are having to let go of certain things and embrace new things. And it's not always easy. And sometimes, perhaps, people will often skip that grieving process of a loss. And it's so important that we recognize when things are moving from a loss to a gain, to say, yes, this is hard, it is difficult. No one wants to really see a church torn down or a school not used anymore, but we realize that it's not just about the building itself or about the history that was there, but it's about the whole community growing and moving from, if you will, a death and a resurrection. So even at Lourdes, a lot of the students, I was really taken aback a little bit by how much grief there was in losing, if you will, the physical building of Lourdes. The students, especially the older students, wanted to maintain the name and were like, well, there is a change going on here where we're working not with just one parish, but with two parishes. And so that name change is a recognition of something new, much like God calling Abram to become Abraham or Jesus asking Simon to become Peter, that name change recognizes that Paschal mystery. It recognizes that death and resurrection. And even with that, I realized I had to be pastoral and to have an open heart and really listen to that grief that was there of the loss of the building. And to take that seriously and to walk with them through that so then we could walk from that into the resurrection. So, we don't go just from death to resurrection. There's also those 3 days in the tomb. And I think sometimes maybe we skip over that. We forget that there is a grieving process. There is a transition time. And that is a very important time, even if it's short, to really, really have a listening heart and to be able to walk with people through that. So that, I think, is one of the hallmarks, I think, of really being a good shepherd, being a good pastor, is being able to walk with people, even when perhaps you're not in that grieving process, you're maybe not in that stage, but to be able to empathize with that and really walk with them.
I think that's important. And I'm thinking you're probably all settled into the rectory at the cathedral now.
Well, we're getting there.
Yeah. And I think, do you have a dog?
I have two.
Two dogs, yeah?
Bella
What are their...
and Lola.
What breeds are they?
So Bella's the older dog. She's about 9, and she's an Old English sheepdog, so she's kind of like the shaggy DA, but I try to keep her trimmed up, otherwise things get messy. And her sister, Lola, who's 2 years old and a little bit more precocious, is half sheepdog and half poodle, so she's a sheep-a-doodle. And so they're getting used to their new locale. They're able to run and play in a yard. There's a fenced-in yard. Obviously, it's a nice big house. And so it's been a lot of fun. And I say they're kind of our local security because anytime someone comes around, they're barking and greeting them. But, they're very friendly, and they're very happy to be around people. So it's been a good transition so far.
That sounds great. And when did you celebrate your first Mass there?
My first Mass at the cathedral was actually, I believe it was Tuesday morning after Labor Day, and I had a new job that I hadn't done in my previous parish, and that is I had to unlock the doors of the church before Mass, and I didn't know which doors to unlock. I forgot to ask which ones, and so I'm going around to these doors, and then I get my key stuck in the door, in a door that's usually only unlocked on Easter and Christmas, and I couldn't get the key out. And so for my first homily, I said, well, I've been a priest for 25 years, and I kind of know what I'm doing, but I also kind of feel like it's my first day in kindergarten, so bear with me here.
Yeah, I think sometimes you got to just laugh at yourself.
Yes, absolutely.
And how has the reception been there so far? Have you enjoyed getting to know the community?
Yeah, it's been very warm and very friendly, very accommodating. People are very, very kind. And, they have been through kind of, as we mentioned, that death and resurrection as well. I mean, they've lost a beloved pastor. It's kind of been a very sudden change. There's always concern with who's going to be the new guy, what's it going to be like. And, I've done everything I can to, alleviate any fears or worries about, there being any big upset or this or that. I mean, obviously, Bishop-elect Thom and I are different, but we also have some similarities too. And being that we know each other, and that I'm also kind of going through that same process of a loss of a friend, not a friendship, but a loss of a friend being close, we can kind of share in that together. And so it's been really a remarkable and a beautiful transition thus far, and it will continue to be. It's been just really a wonderful experience.
That's good. How do you think you and Father Thom or Bishop-elect Thom will continue staying in touch moving forward?
Yeah, I hope we certainly will. I certainly am anticipating that. I know. Well, I assume, I shouldn't say I know, I would assume that as a bishop in a new diocese and not knowing anyone and also being in charge, it's kind of hard to make new friends. And so hopefully I think he'll lean on some of his friends from the past. I'm pretty sure he will, and that we'll hear from him in the future. It's just that right now his life is more topsy-turvy than mine, and so there's much going on. So once things settle down, I'm really looking forward to sitting down with him and having some good conversations. And he'll be back soon because he's having a massive Thanksgiving at the cathedral, and I'm looking forward to celebrating that with him and taking, if you will, just a little time, to chat with him. And then as things calm down in the days to come, I'm really looking forward to those future chats together.
Yeah, that sounds nice. And you're also the new Vicar General, and some of our listeners might wonder what that entails. So can you briefly explain what a Vicar General does?
Yeah, I was wondering what that job was too. It kind of changes in a little bit depending on, what the bishop asks of that position, but ultimately according to the church, the Vicar General has the administrative powers of a bishop to help the bishop, if you will, run the diocese and to take care of things, to help the bishop focus on the things that he needs to take care of. So the Vicar General can then kind of pick up, if you will, any items that the bishop either wants to delegate or hand off or work with. And so those are things that I'm working with now. Bishop-elect Thom, mentions in many ways it's being a second pair of eyes and a second pair of ears for the bishop, and to help him be able to process all the things that come his way. As a pastor, there's a lot that's thrown my way, and I depend on my staff to help me with that. And the bishop is the same way in many ways, to help just kind of make sure that we stay on course and provide good leadership and good listening skills, so that we can do the good work of the gospel that God asks us to at that higher kind of level in a diocesan church.
And has Bishop-elect Thom had any advice for you on either at the cathedral or with the Vicar General role?
Yeah, he told me to take really good notes so that I don't forget things. So I'll take some good notes and to be patient and to be prayerful and to continue to be a person with a servant's heart.
Yeah. Well, Father Jason, I appreciate you taking the time to talk to us today, and we wish you all the best in your new position.
Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate that.
And new position, what do I feel like I'm forgetting something. Oh, that's right, the announcement you've been waiting for. The new editor of the Catholic Messenger will be, drumroll please, Dan Russo. You may know him as the former editor of The Witness in the Archdiocese of Dubuque. And we look forward to getting to know him more over the next few weeks as he settles in, and maybe we'll even have him on the podcast as a host or a guest, so stay tuned. And thanks again to Father Jason Crossen for joining us today, and to you, our listeners, for tuning into the Catholic Messenger Conversations podcast. Bye for now.